Good morning, everybody. I hope you're having a fantastic day. I'm a little concerned. I think this orange hive right here might be trying to swarm soon. I'm not sure, so I'm gonna go in today and eliminate every possibility that I can to keep them from swarming in fall, because winter's coming fast and I want them to start getting ready so we can hit the ground running next spring. I'll take a second and acknowledge the freeloaders of the world. And I don't know if you can see them in there, but the lizards, there he goes. They just hang out in front of the hives waiting for a snack. Hey, look, if you want to stick a bee in your mouth, go for it. More power to you, my friend. All right, so there's a couple reasons why I'm worried about them swarming. First of all, this box has really gotten super full really fast. And I apologize for the noise, but I'm going to try and multitask and get this done because it's starting to get a little humid and warm. And I did end up getting myself an ice vest because I had almost had like 2 heat strokes this year, so need to take it easy. It ain't worth it, but it's starting to get super full. But on the other side, they're going to start at some point dwindling down their numbers for winter. And with that being said, you need to get them ready for winter, but I don't want them to leave, right? Because they got to have the numbers. So that means that they'll start slowing down and they won't be building as fast, and means typically speaking, they won't swarm, right? But if there's another issue inside of the hive, then they could not just swarm. Let me get that out of your way. They may actually abscond the hive, which is when they all just leave it. And I don't think we're even close to that, but you never know. And I want to make sure that the small hive beetles are under control. I know I've got them in there now, so I need to add some stuff to it. I need to make sure they have space. I need to see if they're putting in food, and I need to do a mite count too. And so we're going to take care of all of that today and see if we can't really start to get this thing under control. Once I get this feeder off, I want you to keep an eye in this general area and see if you can see little black bugs running around. That's going to be your hive beetles. And they'll get in there and just really make a mess of things. So let's give them a little smoke. Get them to go down. All right, here we go. Look at there, I didn't see any. Maybe our few methods we've taken have done some good. I take that back. There's one right on the edge of the beetle trap here. Fast little booger. And just to show you that we do have them in here, I'm sure we'll see more. But here's the beetle trap. And I put this in a couple days ago, and you see we've got a couple beetles in there. So at least we know it's doing its job. We've got in this frame, in this box here, this is the top box, and it does not have all of the frames built yet, but we do have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 frames of bees in here. So we've got bees, which is good, and they're filling it out. But if I pull out one of the edges, so this is from the far left, I'll show you what they've built on this thus far. And as of the other day, it wasn't much. And they actually just started building it out right here. So you can see right here where they're starting to build it out, which is good. But if I pull up another frame, see if I can't get you a better angle. There seems to be a lot of activity in this area, so let's pull this frame and see what's going on. And then I'm actually going to reconstruct this a little bit because the bees are being a little stubborn, and I'm going to try and force them to do something. I say force them and do the best I can. I can't make them do anything. It ain't like chickens and stuff where you can kind of corral them into an area. But they've shown me something that's very interesting. So see, this frame's totally built out. And it's got a lot of either nectar or sugar water in it. I can't tell yet. And I've stopped feeding them. So at this point, I am no longer feeding, and they're actually capping it off. So they're gonna have some food, which is good. And I don't see any eggs in there, but there's really also no room for eggs. Right now, I'm not gonna do anything else to this box until I see what's going on in the bottom box. Now this box has 10 frames of bees all the way across. So we've got plenty of bees going on in here, which is good. The fact that I don't have any comb is not good because then they don't have anywhere to go. So I'm trying to play this delicate balancing act, which has made me realize that comb is king. If you have comb, you're in the right spot. But we're gonna look for swarm cells, and then we're gonna do a mite check right now. This trap, this is just a couple days old as well, I believe. Actually, I think it's been here longer because it's been propolised in a little bit. You see the mites, or the beetles, excuse me. Let's pull an edge frame to give us some space. I know you can't see which frame I'm doing, but God only blessed me with 2 hands. Sometimes I could really use a third. So you can see we've got a fair amount of side frame, had honey on it, which is good. Which I don't believe is actually honey. I believe it's just capped nectar or sugar water, not nectar. So that means that they're putting away some food, and it's not enough, but it's a good start considering the time of year. And we can always feed them later. Now I don't see, for instance, a swarm cell in here, but I do see larvae in here, so that is good. We do have some cat brood, which is even better. But so far, so good. Now I do want to find a good brood frame to take my sample for my mite count. And if you don't know anything about it, there's this thing called varroa mites that have basically come in, and they will latch onto your bees and feed off of the fat cells on them, the fat stores. So this is an apivar strip that we use to treat for them, and the treatment date is up, so we will get rid of that. Pull this frame. Cat brood, larva. No swarm cells on this one, which is good. Let's see if we can see an egg or two. Can y'all see the queen? So at this point, I don't need to look for her or for eggs anymore. She's the one with the red dot on her. Should be going down towards the bottom of the frame at this point. So I don't need to check for her or eggs because I know she's present. So now we're just going to kind of go through real quick and look for other signs of swarming. But you can see we've got lots of brood on here, and this is going to be really good to take our sample for our mites, because the mites actually lay eggs in the brood and then hatch out. So we're going to get a half cup of bees. Seems kind of crazy, but you got to sacrifice a few to save the many. And this is just part of it, you know. We'll put the frame back. And so what's going to happen is the bees that can fly away, they'll get away, but the nurse bees that stay on the brood all the time, they will stay. And that's what we want to sample. Cap it. And now we mix it. We're just going to gently swirl it for a minute and see what happens. See if we can't get any mites in the bottom, and then try and get a count, because we want to be less than 3%. And this is one thing that can cause a hive to leave, is you'll get the mites and then they will take over the colony can't take it and they'll leave. Now I have been treating and say, well, why, if you're treating, are you testing? Well, the bees can go rob another hive and then they could bring mites back. So we don't really want that to happen. So we want to get ready, because as it gets cooler, we don't want them to abscond. That would be terrible. And I already see some mites, so we'll see what happens. Let's see what the prognosis is here. So if you look in the bottom, you see those little specks, those are mites. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now it may not seem like a lot, but that's for roughly 300 bees, and in a box with about, I don't know, probably 20 to 30, 40,000 bees, something like that. So it's exponential growth, and it's just going to keep getting worse and worse. So I'm pretty sure you need to have 3 mites in that sample, and I've got more than that. So we need to kind of start thinking about a treatment plan for that. I just use Apivar, so I'm going to have to use something different. We're going to figure that out. So that's going to be on the plan for the future. I don't have anything to treat them now, but I'm probably going to use something like a Formic Pro, which is, I believe it's organic, and it's super effective, and it actually penetrates the brood and kills the mites inside. So we're probably going to try that. But now we need to do our small hive beetle management on the hive. Added beetle traps here, and all these are just, you just put oil in them. The bees will chase the hive beetles over to it, and they'll fall in, and they're actually fairly effective, so it seems. But there's another method that I've been told to try, and we're gonna try that and see if it works once we get this box on. Now, one thing I do need to do is, if you can see on this hive how everything's being built from here over, and the bottom hive was like that, the bottom box was like that as well, where they were building everything on this side over. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the frames here and just swap them over here, since they're inclined to build that way, and hopefully that'll encourage them to build this way, and just kind of re-manipulate this box a little bit. And I'll leave these, I believe it's these frames here, in one of these 3 or 2 of these 3, because they probably have eggs in. I want to keep them in the middle box so they can keep them warm and be satisfied, and then they'll start building from there out. How cool nature is. Check this out. So here's my mic. You see all these little brown spots around it? Those are all stings, and I swear the bees can tell the frequency, and they're just nailing that left and right. They're just bald. I had to walk away. It was so bad. And I know they're agitated because I'm getting in there, but that's so cool that I know they can hear the frequency of the mic, and they're just going after it. It's got to be that. So it's pretty interesting. But I switched those frames around like I said. I'll show you. So you can see there's comb on these sides, and then over here there's none, so hopefully they'll push this way. And this frame right here has a little patch of brood on it, which is going to cause them to kind of build these out even more. But the small hive beetle traps need to go in, and we're going to add in the small hive beetle traps. But I also have these Swiffer sheets, which they're unscented and all that good stuff, but apparently the bees will push the beetles over it, and then they'll get stuck, but the bees can walk through it. So we're going to add these as well, just to kind of get more coverage and try and get them under control. I mean, it's kind of like I showed you in the beginning of the video. You got lizards, you got mites, and you got small hive beetles. And I can't do much about the lizards, and I can't do much right now about the small hive beetles, or the varroa mites. But what I can do is start to get these under control. And that's a big part of my whole theory behind this, and gardening and chickens and everything else. Man, I had to get out of there. It was getting brutal. Those bees were on me like stink on boo-boo, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, this is my ice vest, by the way. Feels great on your back. Even if you don't need one, you should get one for your back. It just feels amazing. But I think what I'm gonna do, I think I might actually feed that hive a little bit more, because they were going through some of the nectar. And what I've learned so far about feeding, because I did have an issue with overfeeding at first, was give them the food, and then if you see them plugging up, just give them a little while to move it around and use it up. But I do want them to build comb, and since there's not a whole lot in there, then I definitely want to try and do something about that. And giving them some one-to-one sugar water will help that. And let's see, tomorrow or the next day, I can't remember off the top of my head, we're supposed to have a little small tropical system building offshore. And so that'll come up, and then that's going to keep the bees in the hive for a couple days. So it'll give them something to do again. And I don't know if it's necessary, but it makes me feel good. And going along with that, the last thing that I said when I was in the hives was, you know, between gardening and beekeeping and everything, you know, you can have a lot of hurdles. And once you get into those hurdles, it seems like it's daunting to get out of it. But the way I always look at it is I try to take it one step at a time. You know, I can't do anything about the mites right now, like right this second. I can't do anything about all the small hive beetles. I can't do anything about a lot of aspects of it. What I can do is take steps to make it a little bit better. And even though that may not fix the problem completely, it seems to help me personally deal with whatever I'm doing. So I'm always just trying to make a step forward, take a step forward. You know, your garden's overweeded, weed a little bit. You don't have to weed it all, but every little bit you take out counts, and I'm a big believer in that. And it adds up over time. So just like with those small hive beetles, I take a couple out of the trap, that's a couple less. I put those Swiffer sheets on to get a couple more, that's a couple less, and they just can't it's the same thing as a pest in your garden. Even if you don't want to spray anything at all, and you just want to pick, you know, hand pick or something, each one you take out is taking one out of the reproductive cycle. And that can get you way far ahead. It doesn't matter what you're dealing with. Anything in life is the way I look at that. So just think about it that way. Always take a step forward. And I'm delighted to know that the bees did not show me any signs of swarming. I just need to manage these other problems appropriately.